Revlev06 is asking us, for asymmetrical tartans, such as Buchan District Hunting, weathered from Lakaran, if I want a 26-inch long kilt, what are my options if the bolt cannot be split or spliced? This is a very technical question. So for everybody else who's not in this situation, I apologize. We'll get through this shortly. Just hang tight.
So we're going to nerd out on kilt stuff.
26 inches, 6-inch wide bolt or whatever it is.
Yes. Asymmetrical tartans are tartans that do not repeat. So, well, they start over. So instead of like, if you put a mirror on a particular stripe and you look left and you look right, it looks the same versus if you look left and right looking different. Now, many mills weave single width cloth, or a couple mills weave single width cloth. House of Edgar weaves single width. Loch Heron weaves some single width. In that instance, when you are weaving single width specifically, most of them weave a 32-inch wide bolt. So if you're a 26-inch length, you need, let's say 2 to 3 inches for a waistband on the kilt. You should be okay if it's woven single width at 32 inches. Hell, you'd be fine at 28-inch length. Now, the problem comes in when you have somebody who's a 26-inch length, but the bolt of cloth is only, let's say, 54 inches wide, and the mill rips it straight down the center to sell it single width. Now, what I get is only 27 inches wide, and if you're 26, 1 inch isn't enough for the waistband on the top of the kilt. So, what do? 3 options. And it really is going to boil down to how much money you want to spend, period. So, if you said, I want a one-piece waistband, period, it must be exactly perfect. I cannot compromise on anything. Then what I would say is, okay, fine. Then you have an 8-yard piece of cloth for your kilt. And if it's a, let's say, 40-inch waist, you're going to have a 40-inch, circumference plus another 20-inch under apron plus a little bit of wastage. So you need 60 inches of cloth. So an extra 2 yards of cloth, give or take, would be enough to take a waistband after you have the 8 yards for the kilt. If option 2, you don't have that much money, but you want to waste a little bit of money, then you could say, okay, fine, I'm going to splice. I will accept a splice within the waistband. So then I would order your 8 yards of fabric, single width, plus, let's say, a yard of cloth. We'll splice it and have enough, in a spliced piece for the waistband, front and back, the entire circumference of the kilt. If you say, nope, I don't want to spend an extra dime, but I need it to be 26 inches, then, as a worst case scenario, we could put on a solid piece of cloth for your waistband, like a solid black waistband, using using our lining material, or do what the military did with the grosgrain ribbon. Have a piece of 1.5 or 2 inch wide grosgrain ribbon, like the seafoam kind of color that the military kilts would use, and use that for the waistband on the kilt, so that you don't have to worry about it matching up with the tartan or anything like that. And that would be cost effective because you're not worrying about ordering extra cloth. But if you want the waistband to be made from the same fabric as the kilt, then, and you're a 26-inch length and single width is only 27 inches, then you're stuck ordering more cloth. Anything, Mac, you want to add to that, or any extra thoughts I haven't covered?
That's where I went right away, was with the options you gave. Even something that's spliced, a lot of times it's where the splice ends up falling is on the under apron, and you really don't notice it that much. It may add a skosh of thickness in that spot, but otherwise it's really not noticeable. I think we do a good job at hiding ourselves in the back. I think we do a good job of hiding it when we do it. The only I hate to say this option. There is another option, and I think our friend Caleb Birch, he's got a kilt, an older style kilt that's done like this, where the front apron is basically you keep that the whole length, and that's folded down and then the lining, when it's sewn on, the lining is sewn on the top of the kilt and flipped around, and
Covers up the top.
It covers up that top edge of the pleated area and the under apron, and then the front apron you have when you bring your liner on, it's sewn to the top folded part down
top
of the back. That's an older style that's done that way. I've done a couple kilts that way for myself, but
kind of hate that.
It's not bad. It's just you got to make sure everything is lined up perfectly when you flip that liner around, because if it's not, you got to re-angle everything. So it's a little bit more trickier, but it does solve that problem too.
Yeah. Interesting. Now another little quandary, not asymmetrical tartans, but another time where we kind of get into trouble, so to speak, as kilt makers, is if somebody, let's say Kurt Kinnaman, orders a kilt, and he's 6'7", 6'8", whatever the heck that monster is, and he orders. I love you, Kirk. You know that, and he has a piece of cloth from Loch Carron, whose cloth is like 54 inches wide. So when you cut that down the center, you rip it straight down the center, you're ending up with a piece of cloth that is 27 on either side, and you splice that together. You literally have nothing left if the kilt length is 27 inches. So what most kilt makers will do is order, if you're ordering, 4 yards double width, you'll order 4 1/4 yards double width. And then you cut a 1/4 yard straight up. Then you cut that straight down the middle, and you splice that, and you turn it sideways, and that becomes the waistband for the kilt. You get into a little bit of trouble if the warp and the weft, or the warp ways and the weft ways of the cloth are not exactly square. If it's rectangular at all, sometimes you have a little bit of an issue with it aligning on the front apron. But usually you talk to the customer and explain exactly what the issues are in that instance, and here are our options. What do you want to do? But yeah, that is more being transparent with customers, and not trying to hide something, but explaining the challenges than anything else. Okay, have we nerded out enough?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just picturing our kilt makers over there going, ah!
She's just
Pretty much.
running around like Beaker in the lab.
Yeah. Me.
Good. There is no way this paper...
Meep. Indeed. The beautiful thing about kilts is there's 100 different ways to get around any tiny little problem that you run into. If you are a hard-to-fit individual, send us an email, sales@usakilts.com, and we'll happily sort you out.